Welcome to the eCommerce Badassery Podcast, the place for scrappy entrepreneurs who want to learn actionable steps and strategies to grow the traffic, sales, and profit in your e-commerce business. I'm your host, Jessica Totillo-Coster, a 20-year retail veteran and former brick-and-mortar boutique owner who spent 3 years as the only employee of a 7-figure online store. That shit was crazy. I know exactly how it feels to do all the things, and I'm sharing everything I learned the hard way so you don't have to. I may have started this business by accident, but supporting badass bosses like you lights me the fuck up, and I am so stoked to see you grow. Are you ready, babe? Let's roll. Happy New Year, friend, and welcome back to the eCommerce Badassery Podcast. I'm your host, Jessica Totillo-Coster. I'm super excited to kick off the new year with you. I hope you had an amazing close to the holiday season and a happy New Year celebration. It was really weird to be away from the podcast for 2 weeks. I don't think I've ever let a week go by since starting the show where there wasn't an episode published, even if it was just a replay. But I figured, fuck it, let me practice what I preach and take a real break. But I'm super stoked to finally be back in your ears and to kick off 2025 with a 4-part series to help you set your goals and intentions for the new year and give you some tips and tricks for how you can approach this process without the dreaded overwhelm. This is essentially an overview of what I do with my lounge members every year, quarter, month, etc. through the yearly ops and marketing playbook. I wanted to do a live training or workshop this month, but at the end of the day, I just couldn't fit it in. So I'm doing it in podcast format instead. We're going to take it slow over the next couple of weeks so you don't get overwhelmed. I originally had a lot more packed into each episode, but I want you to be able to take action each week and follow along. So I'm going to spread it out. Now please do your part and actually do the work. Of course, if you want my direct feedback on your goals and ideas and things that you're planning for the year, come join us in the lounge. Our quarterly planning workshop is happening January 20th, so there's still time to take advantage. Okay, let me stop rambling and get to the good stuff. Now, of course, you can't figure out where you're going if you don't know where you've been, and that's why the first thing you need to do is reflect on last year. If you've been listening to this podcast or hanging out with me for a while, I hope you're actually doing this every quarter so it doesn't feel like such a big undertaking. But if not, that's okay. Today is just as good a day to start, and I would just make sure moving forward that you put an appointment on your calendar every month, every quarter, so that you can keep up with this process throughout the year, and it will make your yearly reflection a whole lot easier. And when I say reflection, I don't just mean, hey, did I hit my revenue goal? Do I have money in my pocket? Did I want to burn my entire business down? Or am I feeling pretty confident about things? No, I want you to get into the nitty-gritty, my friend. Look at your marketing channels, your product assortment, your sales channels, your systems, your team, all the things. Get a handle on what brought you ROI, what it didn't quite pay for itself, and use that as a guide to decide what you should and shouldn't be doing in your business this year. Now, admittedly, this part can get a little tricky because there is a lot of nuance based on how you implemented these strategies, where you're at in your business, the product that you sell. Something could look unsuccessful on the surface from a monetary ROI standpoint, but that doesn't mean it was a complete waste. It's hard for me to cover every possible combination that you might come across, but let me give you a few examples to keep in mind when you're analyzing your own business. Let's say you dive into your numbers and you look at all those in-person markets you did, but you didn't really make a lot of money at them. At first glance, it might seem like you should stop doing them altogether. But maybe you're early in your business and those in-person markets bring you invaluable feedback from potential customers, or you met some really great biz friends that you can collaborate with this year, or maybe even you found some potential wholesale partners. Sure, you only sold enough at the market to cover your booth fee, but that doesn't mean you didn't get a positive ROI from that event. Or maybe you did a whole bunch of collaborations and they didn't all perform well. Does that mean you should stop doing collabs altogether? Not necessarily. Go deeper into each one and try to identify, was it the partner? Was it their marketing efforts? Was it the product? Was it the time of year? Was your audience too tired because you did too many collaborations, one right after the other? How about your marketing channels? Maybe at first glance, it looks like your email didn't really bring in the revenue you were hoping for. But when you take a deeper dive, you see that you didn't have a lot of people moving through your email automations, and your list size is the exact same size as it was this time last year. Well, that's likely not an email problem. It's a visibility and traffic problem. When you look at your product assortment, you might have a specific category that didn't sell very well. Does that mean you should get rid of the category altogether? Maybe, but I would also go one step deeper to figure out why that is. Did you give the product the attention it deserves? Do people even know it exists? Now, you might be saying, no, I didn't really talk about it because Jessica, you told me to focus on marketing my bestseller. And I would say, yes, glad to hear it. But also, did you run any short-term mini campaigns for this category? Did you set it up as a cross-sell? Did you do any search engine optimization for organic traffic? If your answer to all of those is no, then maybe it's something you want to tackle this year to make sure you're giving that category a fair shot before you completely throw in the towel. At the same time, I don't want you spending too much time on things that just aren't working. This part is tough. There's just a lot of variables. What looks bad at first glance might not be so bad when you dig a little deeper. The same is true for what's good. Maybe you see one product that accounted for a huge portion of your revenue. At first, you might think, oh, okay, maybe I have to push this even further this year. But if you took a moment to dig a little deeper, you'd see that something in the production process makes this particular product a nightmare. Maybe you struggle to get materials, the prices have gone up, it takes you forever to produce, or the vendor is a pain to work with. When I work one-on-one with clients setting up their email automations, and it's actually a question in the pre-work of Email Badassery, I ask, if you could only sell one product from here on out, what would that be? And I encourage them to think about all the things that go into selling that product, just as I outlined. Sure, you may have a bestseller, but you hate freaking making it, or it's super annoying to stock, or it's too big and heavy to ship. Like, is that really the only thing you would want to sell? It's possible your answer to that question isn't currently your best-selling product. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that you cut off your bestseller right away, but it could mean that you want to build up the rest of your assortment so you can phase this really annoying product out, right? As I said, this part of the process can be tough. The easiest way to sum this up is to act like a toddler and just keep asking why. When you think you've got an insight into why something did or didn't work, ask why again and see if you can uncover anything new. By the end of this reflection process, you should have a general idea of what did and didn't work in your business in regard to your products, marketing, sales channels, systems, and people. Once you've done that and you've got a clear picture of what did and didn't work, it's time to start dreaming about the business you want to create this year and beyond. And this isn't just about revenue and profit, though that matters too. We'll talk more about that in a bit. But I want to talk about the real stuff. What does success look like for you this year? Is it working fewer hours so you can spend more time with your family? Is it hitting consistent, predictable revenue so you can release some of that stress? What kind of impact do you want to make? Do you want to create a standout customer experience, build a community around your brand? Do you want to sell your business? I've had a few clients and students who recently exited their businesses or are currently in the process of doing so because they're ready to move on to another chapter. When you define success beyond revenue, you give yourself permission to build a business that supports the life you want to live, not the other way around. And there's no right or wrong vision to have for your business. I'm all about dreaming big and setting goals that stretch you out of your comfort zone. Larissa Loden talked about this on episode 250, specifically about the concept of moonshot goals. Essentially, you set your long-term goals so big that even if you don't hit them, you'll likely make it further than 99% of the other people on your way. And as the go-getter and overachiever that Larissa is, I totally understand why she loves this method of goal setting so much. And I know she has a really big vision for what her business is going to look like in the future. But it's also okay if the vision you have isn't that big. There's a difference between intentionally building a lifestyle business that gives you financial security, freedom, and a solid retirement plan versus not aiming big because you think you can't do it or because it scares you. My point is, when it comes to outlining the vision for your business, look internally. What do you really want? What really drives you? Black out all of the noise. It doesn't matter what people tell you you should want. Just be honest about what you do want. And if you don't know what you do want, start with what you don't want. That works too. Once you understand the type of business you're trying to build, then you can set your monetary goals for the year. Ideally, you'll start with a profit goal and reverse engineer that to a revenue goal. Setting profit goals is important because that's what you actually get to put in your pocket. And because as a product-based business with regular expenses and cost of goods, it's really easy to piss away your profit without even realizing it. But before you set your sights on a specific profit goal, I want you to do some math and figure out how much money do you really want to make. A lot of times we create these financial goals for our businesses just because a number sounds good. We don't take the time to do the math and figure out what is our enough number? That's not to say you'll only ever strive for your enough number. I do still want you to think big. But I also find that many of us are doing better than we think we are, or we don't realize the goals we set for ourselves aren't grounded in any sort of reality. So take a moment to jot down some numbers. How much money do you need to be content? You're paying your mortgage, you've got food on the table, a couple trips per year, sports gear for the kids, investments for retirement, a sizable cushion in case shit hits the fan. For example, 6 months of living expenses. I like to do that in my business too, leaving a little cushion there just in case. If you're not already hitting that enough number, then that becomes your first profit goal. If you're already hitting that goal, then awesome. You can start making adjustments based on where you're at right now. For example, a 10% increase. Once you've finalized your profit goal, then you need to calculate your revenue goal. And you do that by dividing your profit dollar goal by your net profit margin percent. Your net profit margin percent is the percentage of money you keep after your cost of goods sold and your operating expenses. If you have an accounting system, you should see this at the bottom of your profit and loss statement. If you don't have an accounting system, please get one. Now, what a good net profit margin is will depend on whether you're paying yourself a set salary or if you're just taking profit out of the business. As you scale, your net margin percentage will decrease because you need more employees, systems, larger warehouses, etc. As a starting point, I say aim for 30% net profit margin, assuming you're just paying yourself from the business profits and you're generating up to about $300K in revenue. These are not hard and fast numbers. I just want you to have something to aim for. So, assuming you have a 30% profit margin, that means to profit $100K for the year, you need to generate $334,000 in revenue. When you first calculate your new revenue goal, you might be surprised and not in a good way. You might think to yourself, oh shit, how am I going to hit that? We're going to dive deeper in how to make that happen in upcoming episodes. So don't get too stressed about that right now. I just want you to have a realistic view of where you're trying to go. All right, so for this week, you're going to start by reflecting on last year and identifying what you want to do more and less of. Act like a toddler and just keep asking why until you get to the root of the result so you can make an educated decision on whether or not it's the right thing for your business. Next, start thinking about the vision you want for your business this year. What do you want your business to look like? How do you want to feel when working in your business? Go beyond the numbers and get clear about what excites you. Then you're going to solidify your profit goal for the year. Over the next few weeks, we're going to dive deeper into this process. We'll talk about the cash method, my framework for growing your e-commerce business, how to leverage your data so you know what to focus on, and how to set goals that actually stick. Lounge members, our quarterly workshop is right around the corner. If you haven't already started digging into this pre-work process, here is your friendly reminder to start doing it now. Open up your yearly ops and marketing playbook and start diving in. The more you've done by the time we hop on our first call, the more I can support you and give you feedback. And that, my friends, is a wrap. If you're not already following the show on your favorite podcast player, please go ahead and hit that follow button so you don't miss any of our upcoming episodes. As always, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I'm so excited for everything that's to come this year, and I know you're just gonna fucking kill it. I can't wait to be here on that ride with you. Have a kick-ass rest of your day, and I'll see you on the flip side. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. If you want to learn more about growing your e-commerce business, get started with my free resource library at ecommercebadassery.com/free stuff and get an invite to the Lounge, my e-commerce marketing membership. When you're ready for one-on-one support, apply to work with me at ecommercebadassery.com/apply. Before you go, would you do me a quick favor? Leave a rating and review and tap that follow button. This pushes me up the chart so I can support more scrappy e-commerce entrepreneurs just like you. I'm on a mission to reach as many as I can, and I could really use your help. Thanks so much in advance. Until next time, e-commerce friend, stay badass.